Good Sunday morning. Welcome once again to God Is Not Mad at Me. I'm your host, Adam Greer, and today we're continuing with the series of destructive beliefs, teachings within the church. We're looking at fallacy number 3. It's the narrow pathway or else. This is going to be a 2-part series, so today is part 1. I'm going to start off with reading the text, reading the King James Version of this story. Enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the path that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat, because strait is the gate and narrow is the way, which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Matthew 7:13-14. Again, it's from the King James. A lot of these and thous and thuses, things we don't say. So what did we just read? That's what we're going to try to break down today. I'm going to try a couple other versions, see if it makes any more sense for us. You can enter true life only through the narrow gate. The gate to hell is very wide, and there is plenty of room on the road that leads there. Many people go that way. That's the easy reader's version. Well, heck, that's even scarier than the first attempt we had. If I can't find a correct path, I'm toast. That's what it certainly leads us to believe. Let's try again. Heaven can be entered only through the narrow gate. The highway to hell is broad, and its gate is wide enough for the multitudes who choose its easy way. Highway to hell, we've gone from wide is the path, narrow is the way, and now we're talking about the path to hell. Sounds like an AC/DC song. All right, we're going to try again. This is out of the Message. Don't look for shortcuts to God. The market is flooded with surefire, easygoing formulas for successful life that can be practiced in your spare time. Don't fall for that stuff, even though crowds of people do. The way to life, to God, is vigorous and requires total attention. So it's hard to get to heaven. Is that what we're reading? Let's look at a couple other pieces of scripture. There are 2 paths before you. You may take only one path. One doorway is narrow, and one door is wide. Go through the narrow door, for the wide door leads to a wide path, and the wide path is broad. The wide, broad path is easy, and the wide, broad, easy path has many, many people on it. But the wide, broad, easy path, crowded path, leads to death. It's from The Voice. The wide, broad, easy, crowded path leads to death. So wait, is it a gate, a door, a skinny path? What are we seeing here? There's a whole lot of different versions of this, and I still don't understand, but we better figure it out because it sure seems important, right? After all, we're told by Jesus, strive to enter the strait gate, for many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able. That's Luke 13:24. Some translations, in place of the word strive, use words like, or phrases like, labor, give diligence, make every effort, do everything possible, exercise yourselves, or study to enter. I kind of like that last part, study to enter. But each of these words or phrases find the origin in the Greek word spoudazo, meaning to use speed, to make effort, to be prompt or earnest, do or give diligence, be diligent, endeavor, labor, study. It's all the same word. It's all coming from this one word, spoudazo. But we still better figure this out, because even though they're all from the same word, it sure seems like we better know what we're doing and know what path we're on, right? I've got good news. Jesus actually gives us the answer to this whole thing. Actually tells us the answer to this puzzle that's been presented. He says in John 10:9, I am the door. There's a great great clue to this whole thing. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. We talked about saved, the word saved, a couple times now in the last couple episodes. It's rescued, by the way. It's not saved from the fiery pit. It's rescued, healed, made whole. Jesus says, I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be, let's insert the word, rescued, healed, brought to life. And he shall go in and out and find pasture. Now it's starting to seem exciting. Not such a scary idea that this narrow path, we're starting to understand that Jesus is this path. From the voice, that same scripture, he says, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be liberated. Now, that's a great word. He will go in and out and will find pasture. Phillips says, I am the door. If a man goes through me, he will be safe and sound. He can come in and out and find his food. Starting to see some great excitement here in some of these verses. The Mirror says, I am the door, and the sheep who enter because of who I am is safe to roam freely and find pasture. This idea of safety, this salvation is not pulled from the fiery pit, rescued from the smelting pot. It's rescued to life. It's restored. It's healed. It's set free. It's liberation. John 14, 5-6, Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going. How do we know the way? Here they are. So the path is one or the other. How do we know which way to go? Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. So he's told us he's the door. He's told us he's the gate. And he's told us that there's no way except through me to get there. John 14, 6 out of the Mirror, Jesus said, my I amness mirrored in you is your way. This is your truth and also your life. Every single person is now brought face to face. I love that imagery. I've brought it up several times. Face to face. Not peeking around a corner, not from a distance. It's face to face. You and God. Face to face with the Father entirely, listen, entirely because of my doing. My I amness is your way. Most see and teach these proclamations of Jesus as exclusive. Even though he's the way, so we better get right with him. We better get to him. So it still could be taught in a very dangerous way, crippling way, that it is exclusive and still some don't choose it because we have that other path that's been mentioned that only a few find the narrow path. But let's keep digging a little further and see what happens. So it teaches exclusive, like a private club with very stringent membership requirements. And then this club has a bouncer at the door named religion. This bouncer is a bully, a thug, speaking the same lies that were born in the garden. Religion speaks the same lie that was born in the garden. Now we've got to be careful here when we hear this. Religion, systematic rules and regulations to approach God. That's what religion is the lie that was first told in the garden. That there is some sort of systematic rule or regulation to get to God. Religion tells these lies. You can't come in here looking like that. You're naked, for God's sake. Go, get cleaned and dressed before you attempt to approach the Lord. That's a big one. How many of you have been told, we're glad you visited today. Next time, maybe don't wear that. Maybe next time, if you could just hide your tattoos. Hey, maybe next time, put your cigarette out before you get in the parking lot. So, right? Hey, maybe a man shouldn't have earrings. Glad that rule's stupid. Maybe a man shouldn't have beard. I've heard people say that a beard on a man is antichrist. Ungodly. Ungodly for something that grows naturally on my face, the face that God created? There's all kinds of rules. They are born out of religion. This bouncer is always screaming at us, you better get it right before you approach God. And then, if we do all that, we get cleaned up, we get dressed, right? Now, okay, we're gonna come to God. And then we hear this lie. Are you sure you're clean enough? Did you use the right soap? Are those the right clothes? Right? There's a big one. We start to doubt. Have I? Did I? Maybe I shouldn't. Right? Oh, what did I do last night? Man, I watched something I shouldn't have watched. All these things. You sure you're cleaned up enough? Did you double check everything? Entering, this is another one. Entering is not easy. You must strive. And brings that word strive back, and we're going to deal with that in a minute. You must strive, even to the point of agony. How many times have we heard that? Oh, you got to work, man. You got to work. Sacrifice. You better show up every time the doors are open. You better be at every prayer meeting. It's agony. It's sacrifice. You must work hard every day to stay the course. What do we see with that kind of stuff? You better be in the discipleship program. You better be here. You better go to this. You better go through this book. You better be at this men's conference. You better be at this women's meeting. You better work hard to stay the course. Religion says, I'm looking for marathon runners. And you seem barely stable. Why, you can't even barely stand. Come back when you get stronger. These are all the things that come out of religion's mouth. That bully, that bouncer, that thug. These are all lies, but they're effective. They're effective in turning the sojourner away, filled with sorrow, sad, defeated. We hear the liar's voice loud and boldly, and eventually we give up. You're right. It's true. I'm a failure. I'm a slug. I'm not worth anything. I'm not good enough for God to love. That's what religion does. Beats us into total, we're defeated, we're done. God couldn't possibly love me. And then comes Adam's solution. I need to work harder before God will accept me. I'll quit buying clothes at the thrift store. I'll now shop at Nordstrom's. That's what it is. I'll get better quality clothes, clean, unstained, buttoned down, iron pressed. Right? That's it. I'll clean up, dress up, and I'll suck up. Work, 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 work. This is the wide path. I want you to understand this. It's work. It's labor. It's exhausting, and it leads to our destruction. The context in which Jesus made this statement wasn't that of eternal damnation. It wasn't, if you're going down the wide path, you are going to hell. Some of the translations said it that way. It's not what Jesus was talking about whatsoever. The narrow gate is not hard to enter because God has high standards. He met his own standards on our behalf in becoming flesh and allowing us to nail him to a tree. The narrow gate is hard to enter because humans believe that the good news is too good to be true. It can't possibly be that easy, brother. We got to work. After all, we got to match what he gave for us. I used to preach this. I used to use a lot of illustrations, but I used to use illustrations that would show some human sacrifice, some hero that rescued the day but sacrificed his own life. And I would say things like, we need to make sure that we recognize how much it cost Jesus and live a life worthy of that cost. Man, It's religion. Our nature craves rules. We'd rather be told what is required and then told how to fulfill those requirements and then get to our business, right? Get about doing the things that we need to do to check off the list and be able to be right before God. And when the rules are in place, we are also, this is the other thing that happens with rules, now we have something to compare. Now we could say, yeah, I kind of missed here, but hey, look over there, God. I'm certainly better than that person, than that group. It's got to be worth something. As long as I'm better than them, right? That's what rules do. They produce this pride, this competition almost. The very reason the Ten Commandments even came into existence because this was the request of man. Man wanted rules. Man wanted to be told, do this and you'll be right with God. We know the story. Moses has brought Israel out of Egypt. They're being led to the promised land. There's all this, we're going to the promised land. They get to Mount Sinai, and this is what happened. Moses has fulfilled his obligation, his mandate. He's supposed to retire. He's brought Israel to a place where man was to be reconnected. This connection, this earthly, physical presence that was once in the garden where Adam even said, we heard your footsteps. There was something tangible. We're getting ready to be reconnected in this tangible way again, right? And then Moses was supposed to just be able to be part of the party. Walk around with his brothers and sisters and walk in relationship, physical connection with God. But the people feared God and they asked Moses, you go up there, be our mediator. You get the rules, tell us what they are, and we'll do them. We'll fulfill what the requirements mandate. Instead of knowing God's heart and living in bliss, they swore they could keep the rules in order to keep this scary version of God, which was only in their mind. Keep him at bay. He'll be pacified. We'll be safe. Enter religion, the bouncer, the bully, the thug, using blackmail to keep fear alive and the masses controlled. You're a mess. How could you possibly approach a holy God in this sorry state that you're in? You need more fig leaves. Here we are today, thousands of years later, still afraid to come into the house of grace. We're stuck out in the parking lot trying to clean ourselves up, getting our right clothes on, confessing our crap, hoping that God will be pacified. And then we might dare to go in the doors. Instead of beholding the Lamb, the doorway, we work the wide path of self-improvement, self-salvation. The narrow path is not hard to find and travel. It is simply awareness of Jesus the Christ, God incarnate, is in fact, the only way to life. Is in fact the only way to life. So why did Jesus exhort us to strive to enter the straight gate if no work is required? What's this about? Well, Jesus has already established that human effort, by the time he said that, he's established that human effort always lacks and is 100% worthless. Has no value to the kingdom. 100% worthless when he preached his famous sermon up on top of a hill. With each of his "you've heard it saids," he drove home that it is impossible to be good enough. He drove home that everything you think you're doing right, I'm going to take it another step to confront the fact that you aren't doing it right. He exposed the facade with statements such as, "You've heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, everyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery." What is he saying? Oh, you've not physically been involved with another woman, but have you ever looked too long at a woman? Have you ever thought, ooh, that's nice? Or the other way around, for you women, have you ever looked at a man and went, Jesus says you already committed adultery. He's not accusing. He's just simply saying your works are worthless. What Jesus is not saying is that we must overcome fleshly weakness in order to pass the test, qualifying for heaven. Yes, it takes effort to stay the course, but it's not eternity in the smoking or non-smoking section that is on the line. It's not eternity in hell or in heaven. It's not what Jesus is talking about. This is not a heaven or hell issue. This is not eternal damnation, eternal torture, or happiness in heaven. It's not what Jesus is talking about. Just imagine this. Looking at your child, your parents, the person you love, and you say to them, look, I love you. It's great, but you better choose the right path with me. You better keep me happy, or else. I love you, but you can make me mad. And then I might quit loving you. This is not what's happening here. We strive to enter the narrow gate for the same reason we strive to enter rest. Hebrews 4, 9 through 11. It's from the Mirror. The conclusion is clear. The original rest is still in place for God's people. The original rest. When did that start? Day 7 in the garden. The original rest. Creation has taken place. Adam and Eve are happy. Bliss is in the fields. They're living high on the hog. God's resting. They're enjoying life. Everybody's resting. That original rest still is in place for God's people. God's rest celebrates his finished work. Whoever enters into God's rest immediately, listen to this, immediately abandons his own efforts to improve what God has already perfected. That's excellent. You can't be good enough to be good enough. You can't work hard enough to be good enough. Flip of that is you can't work bad enough to not be good enough either. He says, you enter the rest and you immediately abandon your own effort. Quit striving to make better what is already perfected. When God looks at you, he sees you as perfected. He's okay with you. It goes on. Let us therefore be prompt to understand and fully appropriate the rest and not fall again into the same trap that snared Israel in unbelief. There it is. Come right back to the garden again. What trapped Adam and Eve? What caused them to think incorrectly about themselves? What caused them to doubt God? Unbelief. That is what sin is. It goes right back to that point. Sin is this distorted delusion, this wrong perception of the situation, of God, of self. Unbelief. Not believing what God believes. We must step back, get off the performance treadmill, quit thinking that we've got to prove to God that we qualify. Imagine your kids, you come home, and every time you come in the door from work, they brag about all the great stuff they did. Hey, Dad. Hey, Mom. I mowed the lawn. I did the dishes. I washed your boat. I painted the walls. And they just go down this list. I love you. Can't you tell? I love you. I just want to show you. I want to prove to you that I love you. I want to make sure you love me back. See what I did? See what I did? See what I did? See what I did? Imagine this went on day in, day out, every single day. How would that make you feel? Would you be happy with that? Would you feel satisfied? Would you say to yourself, my children, they are so wonderful, and they serve me so well that I will continue to bestow my love upon them. I will continue to keep the roof over their head. I will continue to keep food on the tables that they are fed. I will continue to take them to the store and buy them clothes so that they are not naked. They've done such wonderful work. They've pleased me so much that I will continue to pour out upon their lives. And the next day, it's all done again. And you go, yep, they did it again. I will continue again today to do the stuff. Would you be happy in that relationship? Would that hurt your heart to think that your kids need to continuously earn your love? Would you look at that and be happy, or would you be sad? And would you grieve over it and say, child, I've never asked this of you. I've never put a list on the wall. Yes, we've got chores when we grow up. I get that. We all should have responsibility in the home. But the list on the wall of chores was never to prove that you understand who I am and to prove that you know your place in this family, to prove that you respect me, to prove that you love me. It's also not the requirement of love. That list, if it was on the wall to show me that you love me, if you put a list on the wall of all the chores and said, if thou fulfilleth that listeth, then I will poureth my love upon thee. If thou don't fulfill the list, then thou will receiveth my wrath. God has never required that kind of relationship. He's not happy when we think we have to do that. He wants us to understand that he's already fulfilled all obligation, and we are perfected in his sight. We were never imperfect, always perfect. That's the point of the narrow path. That's all the time we have. I sure hope that you have found something, as usual, that is of value to you. I hope your appetite is whet to go discover more. Have a great week. Cheers.